Today is Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021. Last night, I linked up with my dear friend Katie, the KD, to drink rosé and talk about everything. We spent literally 6 hours talking, but what you're about to hear is just us discussing why her Twitter is and will remain private. Enjoy. Oh yeah, and we're not sober.
Derapy, Season 3 of Derapy.
White girls from Indiana be like, Nashville ain't ready for us. Like, yeah, sis, I'm sure they ain't never seen a girl with a cowgirl hat on and high-waisted jeans getting hammered.
People show up in Nashville and they really do just wear cowboy boots and a cowboy hat and get absolutely smashed.
It's always really funny to me that every time I hear about a group of people going to Nashville, like, we're headed to Nash Vegas, we're about to tear it up. And I'm like, there's nothing unique.
It's like that thing where guys wake up the next day and they're just all hungover in their shitty apartment. They're like, last night was a movie.
I literally knew. I could have said it with you.
Yeah,
I knew
last
you were
night
going to say
was
that.
a fucking movie.
Last night was literally a movie. Oh my god. The amount of times on April 25th of 2021, Elon Musk tweeted, "Let's find out just how live Saturday Night Live really is," with a devil emoji. And you quote tweeted that and said, "Please stop."
I just think Elon Musk has bottom tier humor in life. He just, oh my god, he thinks it's his god complex, right?
He definitely has delusions of grandeur because of the amount of money that he has.
He thinks he's a god among men.
Yeah, and I think he gets confused. It's kind of it's like how the guys from One Direction could probably tweet the number 6.
Oh yeah,
and 800,000 people would like it.
Right.
So they think that I have the juice. Is there a certain part of you that's that likes the idea of Elon Musk being a meme, but you don't really subscribe to the people's champion notion of him?
In no way would he ever, no, people's champion, Elon Musk, garbage. So as someone who does space, I do like space, and I think it's cool we're doing space in a private way. However, his little comments about Mars, it gives me colonizer vibes a little bit.
He doesn't have enough stuff that he owns already.
Well, it's just we're not going to space to explore space. We're going to terraform Mars. What? Can we just not let Mars be, please?
I feel like the Venn diagram of people that are Elon Musk stans and are also huge Rick and Morty fans is just a perfect circle.
100%.
And I don't really like big Rick and Morty stans. I think you're weird. And
Yeah.
I think you like the idea of being a really person but having no real consequences. But the thing about Rick and Morty is the person that's portraying that character is an actual genius.
Yeah,
and
he's
a
great creator. He's a great creator.
You're just a weird dude.
No, and I think they misinterpret that kind of stuff as well. But for Elon Musk, I mean, Jesus Christ, that dude. All I really want that dude is to just pay some freaking taxes, bro. Please, God.
It's
If you are so rich, pay some taxes, dude.
Just
Show
help us all out. And it's $36
million in a day.
It's annoying that every criticism of rich people not giving enough money to help others is met with, they are donating to charities.
Sure.
I think it just generally bothers me that people even feel like they need to defend somebody that has a bajillion dollars.
No, that dude is not worried about you.
He doesn't need you to do that.
Yeah. He's good.
On July 21st of this year, you retweeted a post that said, "Unemployed people do have job, and it's called keeping the group chat alive."
True.
On July 20th, you retweeted a post that said, "We should gaslight Jeff Bezos into thinking he never went to space."
Girl boss.
July 21st, again, you retweeted a post that said, "God gives his toughest battles to his silliest gooses."
The struggle.
July 22nd, would y'all Biden's to make America great again?
Drunk.
September 1st, you tweeted, "Imagine explaining the Kim Kardashian app to a 13th century peasant."
Basically the Kim Kardashian app is an app where you get to pretend that you are in LA and you are starting to become a celebrity and Kim is your fairy godmother, essentially. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And it's super fun.
Is it free?
There are in-app purchases, but it is free. It is free. Yeah, it is free.
Okay, realistically, can you actually like fully participate without paying for
So
stuff?
it depends on what you mean by participate. So the app is really cool. So if Kim wore something like, you know how she wore like essentially a full like body suit.
Yeah, the black thing.
Yeah. So I don't think I've not played the app in a long time, but I played it religiously before.
In September.
Maybe. And so something like that or some red carpet look would be on the Kim Kardashian app, but something like that would cost K-stars.
So like,
And those you have to buy, pretty much.
is the perk of the app them telling you exactly what it was, or do you get to put it on your avatar? Like,
So
what's
it's just that you get to wear it. Like it's just like
in the game?
Yeah, you get to wear it in the game. It's like that kind of fun. Like where you get to dress up your character and you can get married in it. I've never gotten that far.
Okay, all right, that's enough. On September 4th, you tweeted, "Drake is girl bossing a little too close to the sun if you ask me." What does that mean?
That's in reference to what's the song where he's like,
say that you a lesbian, girl, me too.
I think it's also like, I don't know if you've seen those memes where it's like Drake in like the little sweater and he's like covering his mouth kind of, and he's like, oh, like, you know, Drake's the type of guy to float through the air whenever he smells like a tasty pie.
Yeah, I saw this other tweet of yours. It was like, Drake's the type of guy to like contemplate with the devil and the angel on each shoulder. Yeah,
That stuff kills me all the time. All the time.
On September 2nd, you retweeted a photo that said, "You think coming out as gay is hard? Try telling people you enjoy Little Caesars pizza. See how much acceptance you get from the quote-unquote tolerant left." What's your take on Little Caesars pizza? Do you think that's embarrassing?
I apologize to my around 100 or so Twitter followers, but I'm actually a much bigger Papa John's fan than Little Caesars.
Well, they're in different tiers.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
They are, 100%.
Little Caesars is
in
textbook bottom tier
in
pizza.
a pinch. That is a pizza party at your local middle school.
That's like,
Yeah.
I'm broke pizza.
Yeah.
Papa
100%.
John's is like Papa John's is a casual night with the homies.
That, if you have Papa John, if I go to a party, like an actual party, not just like a party, like where we're eating, you know, party, and it's a pizza kind of casual thing, I want it to be Papa John's.
That's
I do.
fair.
Yeah.
I worked at Papa John's for 3 months, so I'll never touch them again.
Oh,
but
gross.
Nicki Minaj tweeted, "They want you to get vaccinated for the Met. If I get vaccinated, it'll be once I feel I've done enough research. I'm working on that now. In the meantime, my loves, be safe. Wear the mask with 2 strings that grips your head and face, not that loose one." Somebody quote tweeted that. Nicki Minaj can't go to the Met Gala because she's busy conducting a phase 3 efficacy trial and 30,000 volunteers. You retweeted that.
It's just interesting because so many people, they're like, oh, I'm doing my research. And I'm like, bro, where? Like, literally,
How?
where are you doing research? I mean, okay, I feel you. I see you that are scared of like a negative like medical reaction to something. Like I literally do. I had the cursed Johnson & Johnson, right?
Did you have any side effects?
No, of course I didn't have any side effects because it's fine. Like it's literally fine. Like it was fine. But even in your head, you're like, well, dang, like maybe something will happen.
There is no greater sample size for anything in the history of humanity than people that have taken this COVID vaccine. Like,
Yeah.
It's safe to say, I don't have to look this up, I think 1 billion people at this point have probably taken the vaccine.
Oh my God.
Actually, 3 billion.
If there was like even 100,000 people, 10,000 people, 1,000 people that had an awful reaction to it, it would be breaking news. We haven't heard of it. It doesn't
Right.
exist. You know, to have that great of a sample size and to not have any side effects that are prevalent enough in enough people to be like breaking news that all of us would know about. Because you remember what happened with the Johnson & Johnson thing?
Yes.
When like 1 in 1,000,000 people had a blood clot and it was breaking news.
And I will say too, I think there's an argument to be made. Again, I'm the furthest thing from a scientist at all.
I'm not going to sit here with no medical degree, listening to you with no medical degree, with an American flag behind you, smoking a cigar, acting like we know what's up.
But I will say, I mean, correlation doesn't always mean causation, right? I mean, if a woman's taking birth control, for example, there's a lot more risks that go into birth control than getting a vaccine. My point is that the vaccine is for emergency use. the reason they expedited everything is because COVID is so bad and so dangerous.
Killed a lot of people.
Yeah, and especially for people who have pre-existing like conditions and things like that. I mean, that's the fear. It's not, the fear of COVID should be so much greater than the fear of the vaccine.
I literally could not walk across my apartment without being completely out of breath for like 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it's as bad as it sounds.
Well,
But
it's scary, and that right there. I mean, you're a young person. I mean,
I thought
you're what, maybe a
I'm
year?
25.
25, yeah. I'm turning 25 like next month.
At the time I got it, I was 24. I thought I was healthy, and I was one of those people that's like, oh, I'm young and healthy, so it's not gonna like f me up, and
No.
it obliterated me.
Your
Like,
body, just the simple fact is that your body does not have the immunity set to fight something like that because it's
Not
pretty
at all.
unprecedented. I mean, we've had, SARS viruses and stuff before,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, this is just unprecedented. I mean, that's why it spread so quickly because we don't have that built-in immunity.
So it's like I know I've talked about this in great length before, but I just want to reiterate that to the people that are saying if I was gonna get it, I would have got it by now. First of all, that's literally the worst argument for anything ever. That's like saying if I was gonna get in a car accident, I would have gotten one. But nothing happens till it happens. That's a very stupid thing to say. Also, I got COVID in February of 2021. And we started counting COVID cases in like March of 2020. So it's just a matter of time until it comes for you.
Yep.
It's just a matter of whether or not you're prepared for it. I wasn't. I got wrecked. But then I got the vaccine, so I wouldn't get it again. So just get it.
Well, fair.
On October 12th, you retweeted someone saying, my favorite anime is DBZ with a bunch of red flags. So like, what are you saying? Sounds like you're gatekeeping anime. And people that love DBZ,
No, I am gatekeeping anime.
you're like, wow, what a trash show.
I'm gatekeeping anime for the girls and the gays only. No, I just think Dragon Ball Z is fine. Like, I think it's cool. I just personally, like, it's genuinely fun. Like, that really was a joke.
It's a joke.
Yeah, but I just think that, for me, I think there's some animes that do deal with some more complex issues, and I think there's a lot of animes that speak now, you know, my mom would be like, you're insane if you said this. But I think anime is one of the few genres that's dealing with some very serious issues in a creative way, not actually. Okay, so don't say like, you know, the way Naruto did a Rasengan is a great example of the effects of imperialism. No. I just mean that when you look at the whole story, it does ring true about a lot of the issues we face today. And I just don't think Dragon Ball Z hits on that, but I could be wrong.
Oh, for the record, I recognize that it's a clear joke that Dragon Ball Z is not even like top 50 animes ever.
Well,
if you could even consider it
If
that.
you look at something like Attack on Titan, which is, okay, everyone loves Attack on Titan, but I love it. It's so well crafted and it talks about the like effects of war in a very like realistic way that you can even see like throughout history where there's really just no true winner in war. Spoiler alert.
But yeah.
I mean, that's so much more complex than some of the shows I see on just, you know, Western television today.
I think it's super silly that, and it just made me think of a show like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, that's the best example.
The most underrated like animated show ever because it touches on so many like realistic themes that you can relate to as an adult. Dealing with issues in society, dealing with things like war and peace and politics and culture and groups and cliques and how people deal with others on the other side of the aisle. A show like that is so much more deep than a show like Dragon Ball Z.
So the author of Les Mis, Victor Hugo, said something about why he wrote Les Mis, and it was essentially like to get people to care about like the poverty in France. It was during like the French Revolution and stuff. Jeez. You can get people to care through fictional characters. And I think a lot of anime, or, I mean, Avatar isn't really, I mean, it isn't to me, I would say it's an anime, but it's not like Eastern stuff.
It's an animated television show.
But it's anime. Yeah. It is. I mean, stylistically, it's anime.
Right.
I mean, that can just be conveyed so much better than some of these other shows that if you flipped on NBC primetime, like, they're not talking about that. They're doing, like, what, like Castle or something? You know, and it's like, I just struggle to really relate to that, if I'm being honest, in today's day.
On October 21st, somebody tweeted that Glee is leaving Netflix on November 30th. You quote tweeted that and said, that's fine. So what's your beef with Glee?
What's funny is, so Garrett, my friend Garrett, have you talked about Garrett on the podcast?
I think I've mentioned him.
I feel like you
in
would
passing.
have to if you've talked to Sharif on the podcast.
Yes,
It
yes, of course.
inevitably had to come up.
I'm sure I have.
Well, Garrett told me last time he was here in person, he's in Florida, he was saying like, oh yeah, you know, I've been rewatching Glee. And so when I saw that, I was like, that's fine, because that's a low quality show. And it's really cringy.
So you've never liked it,
Well, I did back in the day when I was like a kid.
but now you're a grown up.
Well, I mean, have you ever seen Mr. Schuster? Like the things he does? Okay, go to YouTube and type in Mr. Schuster compilation. And you're just going to be like, whoa, this man needs to get his teaching license taken away.
Go to YouTube and type in Mr. Schuster compilation. Okay, awesome. That'll tell you all you need to know. On October 12th, you retweeted a tweet that said, "Oh, you like podcasts? Have you listened to Joe Rogan?" And there's a lot of red flags. So, what's wrong with Joe?
What's wrong with Joe Rogan? Okay, so his whole like, you know, we're in the, you know, the what is it, the economy of ideas or whatever. What is his thing he always says about like
It's something about like a marketplace.
the
of
marketplace of ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where he's like, oh no, we're in the marketplace of ideas, and then he invites like this motherfucker Alex Jones.
But the reason there's so many gay people now is because it's a chemical warfare operation. I have the government documents where they said they're going to encourage homosexuality with chemicals so that people don't have children.
And I'm like, oh, so you put Alex Jones on like the same tier as like presidential candidates and things like that? Like those are ideas you equate?
Is your problem with Joe Rogan the fact that he's giving a platform to
So-
people that are silly?
Yes and no. I think it's good to interview people no matter really who they are. But the thing is I'm scared that a lot of Joe Rogan's audience doesn't look at it as like a journalistic interview. They look at it as like a valid like take, you know?
You so if I'm understanding it correctly, it's like by Joe Rogan platforming these people on what is objectively speaking the number one podcast in the world,
Yeah.
you think that he's letting these people talk freely and he's saying, "Oh, we're just having a conversation. We're allowed to talk, aren't we?" But his listeners are taking that as, well, this is the number one podcast in the world, and if Joe Rogan's willing to have them on, they must be saying
can
something
entertain
that, like, it
that.
means something.
Yeah. Well,
like there's value in
I
it.
think that that's the thing that, you know, maybe we disagree with that, and that's literally fine. There's not a right answer to what I'm about to say. There is something to be said about presenting ideas and facts and concepts without any sort of input at all. There's something to be said about that and just letting people deal with that and like reckon with that and think for themselves. Like that's totally fine. But, you know, if you put it in like a bubble and you present people with one narrative or one thing and they don't see any of the context and you never introduce any of that, they could walk away with that and be like, oh yeah, maybe the Parkland shooting was a big conspiracy.
You're like, this is legit.
Maybe the frogs are gay.
So I think Joe Rogan could do a better job of, because you're aware of the fact that Joe Rogan is a stand-up comedian, right?
Oh, sure, but that's not what people are listening to.
But
his
he's
podcast for.
he's not doing a good job of saying, this is an entertainment show and this is a show where I'm trying to give you facts, because Joe Rogan likes to do this thing, and I think it's a little, I wouldn't go as far as to say it's gaslighting, but it's a little disingenuous to bring doctors and scientists and serious journalists on to talk about facts, and then literally 2 days later bring on somebody like Alex Jones or other people that are comedians. And maybe some would say it's the responsibility of the listener to be like, okay, this is a comedy show, this is a news show, but it's always Joe Rogan, and you can't tell with him. So unless Joe Rogan comes out and purposely like in this podcast, for example, I'm going to come on and do an intro in post and say, this is Katie, this is what we're doing, this is what we're talking about. But Joe Rogan doesn't feel like it's his responsibility to say, I'm bringing this person on and I don't believe anything that they're saying. I just think it's going to be funny.
And see the thing with him too, because again, I think there's a lot of journalistic value in talking to people like that. Like, you need to interview criminals. You need to interview, like, you know, I'm sure Saddam Hussein or somebody like that has done interviews and stuff, but that
like Ted Bundy.
Sure.
You know.
That's so valuable. Like, it genuinely is. Like, saying that even talking to someone and giving them a quote unquote platform, like giving someone a platform to go on and be an influencer is very different than giving them just a time to speak about things but they still will suffer consequences for those actions. Like, those are kind of two different things. But I think the problem with Joe Rogan, and I don't think his podcast needs to like go away or anything like that. I just think he needs to kind of maybe be a little bit more careful, because the thing with him too is he's so popular and his whole shtick is kind of being like, you know, the marketplace of ideas, right?
Yeah.
And yet he's the same guy who's out here pushing ivermectin.
It was prescribed to me by a doctor.
And things like that. And it's like, and you know, if you want to take the horse stuff, sure, why not? Do it, bro.
They shouldn't have said that. Why did they do that? I don't know.
Look, he's getting to a point where he does have a bit of a stance, and if your whole thing is not having a stance, it's like, well,
He wants to come off as somebody that doesn't care. Like, almost somebody like me that claims to be in the middle politically or whatever.
removed, yeah.
But Joe Rogan is also the type of person to be like, CNN is a bad organization. These politicians are bad. Also, I don't really care about anything. These are just jokes. I'm a moron.
And
it's
you-
just
and you
entertainment.
can't turn around.
And also, I don't like these specific people, and I'd be surprised if anybody liked them. But I'm in the middle. Like, I don't care about anything.
And the thing is, you can't turn around and be the guy who's like, you know, simping for whoever one week that's like super on the left or whatever that has a platform, and then turn around the next week and simp for somebody that is like literally had legal trouble about what he said about like lying about a massive school shooting.
I think
right?
he should be more clear. I think,
Yeah.
like, I understand this.
Clarity. I think you're right.
Like, I understand this as, like, it's my responsibility, even with this little show that I have, that I'm very clear with people about, like, the message that I'm trying to convey.
Right.
Joe Rogan should be way more aware of the fact that, like, okay, it's awesome that Joe Rogan will have somebody like Ben Shapiro on that's from the right,
Sure.
or Andrew Yang that's like doing the forward party thing or whatever, or somebody that's far left, or somebody from CNN or whatever. But I think it's such an easy thing to do, to spend literally 1 minute saying, hey guys, Joe Rogan here. I'm about to have a conversation with this person, and this is the type of conversation we're going to have.
Right.
That would take no time, but he
Well,
refuses to do it, and then
yeah.
acts surprised when people are upset about him being unclear.
And then he gets mad at them, kind of. And I'm kind of like, look, so your audience, and it's predominantly younger
Male.
men.
Young men.
Yeah, and they're very impressionable. Whether you like it or not, young people are impressionable. Even young people our age are impressionable, right? By people we look up to. And Joe Rogan has a lot of things that a lot of men would maybe look up to. He's very successful.
Very rich.
Very rich.
Yeah.
He talks in a way that's very authoritative. He doesn't seem to have like a problem with women, yada, yada, yada.
He's like a textbook alpha male,
Right, and
masculine,
he
tough,
doesn't
cool
have
guy.
a lot of content that challenges like a heteronormative male kind of centering. I know that sounds like very feminist, but it's very true. He doesn't have a lot of women to come on the show and truly challenge him. He does have women on his show. I'm not saying he doesn't have women on his show, but there's not a lot of women that come on and show up and really like can give him.
I would be very surprised because, you know, if those clips existed, they would circulate on Twitter immediately. And I live on there. I don't see a lot of women coming on Joe Rogan's show and like giving him shit about the stuff he says. It doesn't happen.
Right. I mean, women do. Like, we do. Like, women sitting in our, conversations do. But he doesn't invite those women on. He doesn't give a voice. And that's what I mean. Is like, it's kind of like, oh, it's a marketplace of ideas until there's someone that could really maybe kind of be completely opposite.
Like
completely.
I don't want to sound like somebody that's like trying to start an uprising up against Joe Rogan, but it's very interesting to me that I think Joe Rogan likes to pretend, and I've listened to a lot of his podcasts, so I understand, like, he likes to pretend like he doesn't have the level of power and influence that he does. And there was a tweet of yours that I almost brought up, but I didn't, because I was like, I don't really care that much, and who cares? But it was about David Dobrik and like putting his friends in danger. And like David Dobrik just decided after he got canceled, he's like, I never really really consider the amount of power that I have. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't believe you. Joe Rogan has to know is like, he's twice the age of David Dobrik. And for Joe Rogan to not understand that when he invites people on, they need to be on Joe Rogan more than he needs them to be on there.
Exactly.
So they're going to like suck up to him.
Yep.
And they're not going to challenge him on anything. You would think that Joe Rogan would want to have more people on there that are like that.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, I think there's something very admirable about the people that are very open to being challenged, because I think we exist kind of in this way that, and this is not a partisan thing, okay? This is just something I think that exists in our society where, you know, even as someone who might lean one way politically, I do not think like cancel culture or anything like that is very productive or good. It's only really good whenever people are in extreme places of power and there's no real means to get them out of that.
And
Whenever
it
they
also
do something-
only works if the person that's being quote unquote canceled actually accepts the backlash and admits that they're remorseful. Because
Right,
if you're
well-
famous enough and you have enough fans, people could quote unquote cancel you and you could just keep doing what you're doing and somebody will pay
Well,
you.
for example, you know, the best example is R. Kelly. R. Kelly and Bill Cosby too. I mean, these are topics that people, not topics or people, but these are issues that people really wouldn't have looked at or examined for very long if, you know, they hadn't been brought on Twitter.
Yeah.
You know?
Or if there weren't documentaries made about
But yeah, exactly. You know, but honestly, that's only been spurred by Twitter.
it. Right.
You know? And the thing is this whole cancel culture thing is very toxic when it does come to just your average person, because I do wish we lived in a society where it was like, yes, we call out people that are wrong for being wrong, but sometimes maybe we do let people develop their ideas. And I feel like Joe Rogan is maybe a little scared to talk to somebody that is going to challenge his beliefs to where he might seem wrong.
Right.
He wouldn't be able to talk his way out of it.
Yeah, like just like how in, you know, this podcast, like the one that we're doing right now, I have enough control to where if there was something that made me uncomfortable or something that made me look bad, I would cut it out.
Yep.
And Joe Rogan probably
Does the same.
He probably does the same thing. He's like, why would I invite this person on that could potentially like ruin my brand or make me look bad? Okay, so why is your Twitter private?
Because I want to be a teacher.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is, my job as a teacher is, especially a history teacher, is to provide a place for people to think about our country, to explore about our country, to think about things. You know, if I'm talking to, a 16-year-old, they can be so wrong, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't ever want them to enter my classroom and feel like because I feel a certain way or I think a certain way that they can't explore their ideas, that it has to be something where I'm going to agree or disagree or anything like that.
You don't want kids thinking that you're looking down on them or you're going to disagree with them before they even open their mouth to speak.
The reason I'm even doing this, the reason I quit my job and I'm back in school is because I was raised in a way where my dad thought very, 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 very differently than me. But he always encouraged me to think for myself, to look outside of just me, to look at the world, to read, to educate myself, and to realize what I saw the world as. And, you know, obviously that's a whole lot to ask of a bunch of high school or middle school students, but to give them an adult in their life that says, you know what, I want you to read the book, and whatever you say, as long as it's based in something you're reading, as long as it's an interpretation you find to be true, I mean, you're not going to be wrong.
Yeah, as long as your interpretation is based off like
Of something.
facts,
Yeah,
like something
of course,
that's real.
Of course, and to be able to learn how to read things, and that's really important because the way they teach you to read historical documents is very important because it doesn't just deal with because that's the thing is there's no true historical fact, right? There's a lot of interpretations that build that fact. Like, for example, there is historical fact, of course, George Washington was our first president. Mm-hmm. But the interpretation of George Washington as the president is going to be very different from someone when he was president from South Carolina, perhaps, than a soldier that served under him during the Revolution.
Right.
There's a lot of interpretation and being able to reconcile with that.
It's important to acknowledge all of that. And I think that's what's important with like the conversations that I have with you or anybody else on the show is that like I remember things a certain way about college or my fraternity or myself, and it's important to get perspectives from other people like who was I, what was I doing, how did it look from this different angle, and we can do that from, you know, something like your tweets. because you feel a certain way when you post them, but you don't always consider exactly how it's going to make people feel. Or maybe you do, and maybe you don't care, and it doesn't really matter. But, you know, for me, reading this and like seeing things about like, I don't know, even stuff that doesn't even really matter all that much. Like the Kim Kardashian app, which I don't know anything about. Or how you feel about Little Caesars or whatever. The beautiful thing about this, like what we're doing right now is I don't know how people feel about this podcast that I've done like 70 something episodes of.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody feels about it until I talk to them about it.
Right.
And I think that's how your Twitter is and anybody's Twitter is. Like you don't
it's
know.
It's always fun to talk about. I think, and again, I think what you're saying is exactly why I want to go into teaching, why I really, really care about it. Not enough people have people in their life to talk about the way they think about things in a way where they're not scared to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to not know. It's okay to be confused and uncertain. These are things I feel like in our society, unfortunately, we are so quick to throw away people when they don't know or when they're uncertain or when they're ignorant or when they're confused. And we need to do better in our education system.
It's so okay to like change your opinion when you're presented with new information.
Oh my God. Imagine how much better our society would be if it was okay to just change your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's smart.
Yeah.
I think that's smart. I think it's smarter to be able to be someone that makes an initial analysis, thinks something, does more research, and then either supports their initial argument and maintains it, or changes their mind and starts the process again. History, a lot of times, is exactly like the scientific method, where you view something, you have your initial thoughts, and then you do more research, and then you come up with maybe a new conclusion, or you have something that supports the same thought. You know?
I learned that in my 2 survey of United States history courses. And I remember being so bored in those classes, and then towards the end of the semester, I was like, this is actually really cool. It's so nice to know these, because like you hear about these things when you grow up.
Right.
And then when you take a deeper dive into them, or you like read a book written by Frederick Douglass, you're like, oh, things were even worse than I thought.
Right. And it's so difficult to paint this, and this is, you know, the frustration, this is the rub with when it comes to like history as it's being taught today is, you know, people say it's this or that or the other, and these are not historians, right? They're not people that study history and care about history. History evolves. You know, I would love it if I could sit down and be like, this is definitively what happened and this is how everybody felt, but that's just not reality. You look at any human interaction and that's just not the case, you know? It's so complex, and it requires a lot of thinking, but we can do it if we want to.
Beautiful. Okay.
Thank you so much for joining me in Derapy today. New sessions every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Follow me on Spotify. Follow me on Apple Podcast. Absolutely free. Give me 5 stars if you enjoyed. If you didn't like it, I mean, don't do anything. But I mean, share it. Maybe somebody else will like it.
You better go crazy!
I'm Lil Dicky if he took rap serious. Black, what I am, never been to Hogwarts, but I'm curious. Haters see the numbers and they furious. I'm a small man, got big plans, I'm Tyrion.
Drink and I know things.
One more Game of Thrones reference and you'll shut it off. Send me off to Castle Black, cause I swear to God, I want it all. All the smoke that I can handle, but I'm not a smoker. Gambling with these investments in my craft, but never played poker. I'm yelling like I'm Meek Mill so you can hear me. Competition should fear me, I mean it so sincerely. I'm fighting fire with fire so I can stay hot like Baywatch. Just a matter of time till I blow like a Michael Bay plot.
You better stop!
But I will not, I simply don't know how. I am way too proud, I'm earning my crowd. I have to stay loud, busy on my grind. Get used to the sound, this is now my life.